The vehicle I'm driving today is very pure, very pious, and has its heart in the right place. In fact, the version I'm driving today has become more aerodynamic to help efficiency. There's also mild hybrid tech to get the most out of every last drop of petrol. Of course, that's not the right way to introduce the AMG G63. Meet the madcap of the automotive world. How else would you describe a boxy 4x4 ladder frame chassis SUV with not one, not two, but three differential locks, but also one that runs on performance tires to complement a fire-breathing engine? It's a marriage of very different worlds that somehow works. The mild hybrid tech I was talking about adds in 22 horsepower, but even when it's giving its all, it's merely playing a supporting role to the 585 horsepower, 850 Newton meter, 4-liter twin-turbo V8 AMG engine. The engine is relentless in its build of power, and the big power yields big performance. For something as big as a one-bedroom flat and as heavy and aerodynamic as a bank wall, the G63 is fast. It's got a 220 kph top speed, which can be unlocked to make it 240 kph, and we figured it and we got 4.6 seconds to 100 kph. Making that figure possible is launch control. That's a new addition with this update. A G63 prepped for launch is quite the sight.
Watch me.
What's also so integral to the G63 experience is the way it sounds. Those quad exhausts, two on each side of the G63, will have you break into a laugh every now and then. There's this omnipresent woofer when you're driving slow. That sound grows into a growl when you go a bit faster, and then it just erupts when you let loose, letting out a roar a lion would be proud of. The 9-speed gearbox also wastes no time going up and down the gears as you please. It's so satisfying to use the paddle shifters. You'll downshift just for the accompanying sound effect. The G63 even handles well if your benchmark is the last gen model that signed out in 2017. In the last generation car, if you wanted to take a corner today, you should have steered yesterday and maybe it would turn in time. Now that's not a complaint on this generation of the G63. In fact, the trick suspension on this updated car has really improved its handling chops. The official name is AMG Active Ride Control Suspension. Now the G63 does away with physical anti-roll bars and replaces it with a network of hydraulic actuators that actually connect all four corners of the car and adjust the load settings depending on the driving input. Now it is very clever because the AMG doesn't roll as much as you'd expect it to. I'm not saying it corners absolutely flat, but it is quite impressive for what is a really tall and heavy SUV. In essence, the G63 in this updated avatar comes across as a heavy-duty weightlifter who's also learned how to sprint thanks to launch control and has also taken some yoga lessons to become a bit more agile thanks to that very clever suspension. It feels more involving to drive, and helping to that end is the steering wheel that's got a good amount of weight, a good enough amount of connect. No, you won't be setting lap records in the G63, but who cares? It's no Urus, Cayenne or RSQ8 in the Benz, and that's alright. But it's not as comfortable either. A G63 on these large wheels is never going to be the most comfortable SUV that you can buy, and frankly it can't hide the fact that there's a ladder frame chassis underneath. It feels lumpy in a way you wouldn't expect a luxury SUV to feel, but on the whole there's also that toughness that you don't get in any other model of its kind. Also, as we established over our recent off-road day featuring a G400D, there's little to stop a G-Class in the rough. The off-road hardware counts for a lot. This versatility is part of the G63's allure. It doesn't have anything to prove. If I want to climb that mountain, it'll do it. If I want to show up at a track day, it'll do it. A late night ghedi around the city, it will do it. No matter what the setting, the G63 grabs eyeballs. It's boxy, it's classic, it's cool. And I think you'll agree, it can rock some bright colors. There's 37 colors to choose from, and you can get into the nitty-gritties of finish for the grille or other embellishments on the SUV. Of course, there's also a whole range of wheels to choose from, with sizes ranging between 20 to 22 inches. Of the new inclusions with this update is keyless entry. It was apparently a task to incorporate the functionality while retaining the old school door handles. And I almost forgot, the aero upgrades. Well, there's mini spoilers around the A-pillar and the top of the windscreen, as well as a new slot at the rear wheel arch. Hey, at least they tried. The G63 sits high off the ground, so you'll have to use the footboard to pull yourself in. At first glance, not much seems to have changed on the inside of a G63. You still get these two 12.3-inch screens, except there's one very big difference. This one is now a touchscreen. The G-Class never had a touchscreen before this, so that is one very major update that brings the G in with the times. Now, the touchscreen is nice to use, like we've seen on all the latest Mercs. And the user interface in general is very friendly. It also packs in wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Of the other changes, you do get a few different buttons for the off-road modes here, including an off-road cockpit, which is new and gives you easy access to the off-road menus, as well as what Mercedes calls the transparent bonnet function that gives you a feed from under the car. Very helpful when you're in the rough. Of the other things, the digital dials are nice and vibrant. The steering wheel is really good to hold. This one is covered in Alcantara, but do note, a lot of what you see inside this very car is part of the options list. The color of the weave, the stitching to the seats, the finish to the panels, and even leather finish for the roof. There's lots to choose from for big money, of course. And remember all those sounds I touched upon earlier that are very intrinsic to the AMG G63 experience? Well, there's a lot more, such as the thunk on door shut, the way the door locks close. It's almost like a rifle being loaded. I really like the click that you get on the air conditioning vents, very satisfactory, as well as the tactile feeling on the climate control switches. It really feels like a military grade tool that also does glamour well. Other highlights include 64 color ambient lighting, a 360-degree camera, and a fantastic 18-speaker Burmester sound system. ADAS is included, but the auto braking is too sensitive for our conditions, and you have to remember to switch it off every time you start the car. Over to the back. At the back, even someone of my height and build will be comfortable, but if you're looking for the most spacious luxury SUV, the G-Class isn't it. Yes, it is huge on the outside, but legroom is more than adequate, but not as much as you'd expect in something that costs so much. Now, of course, the seat of power is the one up front, but Mercedes has made amends if you are forced to sit at the back. You can go for these optional rear seat entertainment screens. They are quite nice and handy, but a bit too in your face, don't you think?
The G's side hinge tailgate opens to reveal ample luggage space. Before you ask, the cherry wood floor is a paid option. That would add another 3.8 lakh rupees to the tally. So, should you sign that check for a G63? If I could, I would.
The G63 has a permanent spot in my dream 3-car garage. In fact, I'll be curious to know what are the 3 cars in your dream garage. Let me know in the comments section below, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the Autocar India channel. Hit that bell icon to be notified every time we have a new video up. Objectively speaking, the G63 just doesn't make sense. It's overpriced, the ride is lumpy for something so expensive, and so is space. It's just limited at the back. But you can't think of a G63 objectively. This is irrational love. And before your CA talks you out of spending big on this unnecessary depreciating asset, you should inform him that an AMG G63 only gains in value, and if you ever want to sell it, you'll always have a ready customer. For reference, in 2018, it was yours for 2.15 crore rupees ex-showroom. Today, it starts at 3.6 crore rupees.
In my books then, the G63 is an investment.